Hello, I'm Eric Guido, and today I am sitting here with Marco Ricasoli of Rocca di Montegrossi, one of the top producers of Chianti Classico, Super Tuscans, and also Vinsanto in the region of Tuscany, Italy. Welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for welcoming me.
Your family has quite a history in Tuscany and in Italy, going back to the 7th century, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that history and how things led up to the creation of Rocca di Montegrossi?
Yeah, sure. How many hours we have? Because 37 generation, it takes a while. But yeah, it's a family. It's an old family, starting from the 7th century. Of course, not producing wine from the first beginning. We start officially in 1141. Before the family, because the origin of the family is Longobards, so coming from the northeast of Europe, we can say where nowadays we have Poland, Baltic state. They moved across Europe, maybe because it was too cold up there, I don't know, to conquer new land with the emperor. And at the beginning, my family job was army, so to protect the land of the emperor, later of the Medici's family, so we talk about Florence and Tuscany. And then only in the 12th century, wine business became to be more important for the family.
So now help me understand a little more of the timeline of the modern day Montegrossi. Your parents, your father, planting vineyards in the mid-60s,
Yeah.
including the San Marcelino vineyard, which is now what produces your Gran Selezione.
Exactly, yes.
They leave the original property to create a new estate, which you were brought up in.
Yes, it's a little different, the story, let's say. The vineyard has been planted San Marcelino from my father because it was in the 60s and 50s. Was working with my uncle for the historical winery of the Ricasoli family, and then because the name was sold at that time to other company, he thought to do a new wine. And so he do new vineyards and a cellar for this project. Unfortunately, he passed away in the 1972, and my mother take the business, the project that he has just started. So that vineyard San Marcelino was planted by my father. And when in 1994 I decided to go on my own because different opinion with my brother. And so I thought it was difficult, unfortunately, to work together. I decided to go on my own. I said to my mother, sorry, but there is no, we can't, it's difficult to work together. I prefer to do something on my own. So my mother was kind to give a vineyard so I can start to immediately produce. Because if you have to start from 000, at least you need to wait 7-8 years before to have the first good quality wine. So this vineyard was San Marcelino, and from 1994 all around that vineyards, little by little, I have done a new vineyards till what it is nowadays. It is 20 hectares of vineyards, roughly 20 of olive trees and forest.
Well, we're certainly in a time when consumers are now starting to find that within Chianti Classico that there are a few producers that are creating wines that can last for decades.
Yeah.
Some of your famous neighbors as well,
Yeah.
which leads me to wonder what was the insight that your father had in planting San Marcelino, considering that this wine stands among some of the greatest Sangiovese being created in the region right now.
Let's say at the time he didn't thought about San Marcelino because this is a project that I start when I decide to create Rocca di Montegrossi. But for sure he saw I think this great land, a great exposure, a lot of limestone. Then the beauty of Monte in Chianti, for instance, is altopiano, so it's a high plan, so not too steep, very good exposure. So actually it's quite incredible there was no vineyards before, only olive trees. So why they didn't thought to to start a vineyard there, I don't know, but it's a great exposure. So I think he thought that could be a great place, and I'm happy nowadays to show to him, let's say, that what he had chosen 50 years ago, it was the right place for great vineyards.
So let's change gears here.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about a term that isn't used quite as often anymore, but I believe is now starting to regain a lot of popularity, and that is Super Tuscan.
Yes.
For lack of a better definition.
Yeah.
The Geremia.
Yes.
Geremia is a wine that you started creating at the very beginning
Yes.
of Rocca di Montegrossi. Today it is 70% Merlot, 30% Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, yeah.
In my opinion, one of the best Merlot-dominated wines coming out of Tuscany right now.
Thank you.
But I've also read that at one point it was a 100% Sangiovese that was made more in the style of Pergola-Torte or some of the other wines at Ciparello.
Yeah.
How did you decide to change it from being 100% Sangiovese to moving into international varieties later in the 90s?
Later in the 90s, yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, it's been a very dramatic change, you can say, because from Sangiovese to Merlot Cabernet, I should say, some people even they criticize my choice and so on. But I think it was important to, first of all, to make easier for my customer to understand, because in Italy, as you know, sometimes we like to make everything more complicated situation that could be, let's say, more easily. And Chianti Classico, that is a big condominium, we can say. To find rules, it's not easy, because to put everyone agree, it's a hard job. And when regulation of Chianti Classico has changed, so the Chianti Classico could be even 100% Sangiovese, or with international grape varieties, I thought that to produce a 100% IGT or Super Tuscan maybe was not correct, let's say, not following the rules in a way, and maybe in the future more difficult to understand for the consumer. And in the same time, I want to bring the top grapes for Chianti Classico, because I'm producer of Chianti Classico. So this was all the reason behind my decision. In the same time, very important to me was even to show the potential of Gaiolo in Chianti, and more specifically Monti, through different grapes. Because that terroir of Monti in Chianti, I think it can produce really interesting and high quality wine, not only with Sangiovese, that historically, of course, is there from centuries, but also with other grapes. Of course, I have some experience through the winery of my mother, so it was not a jump in the darkness. Mm-hmm. And I found where Merlot and Cabernet can, I think, grow better, give the best result. And I think Geremia, that is actually the name comes from the ancestor of the Ricasoli family, so it is the first Ricasoli. I think it shows really the quality of Gaiolo in Chianti. So you have all the aim of this incredible soil through these two beautiful grapes, that is Merlot Cabernet, and so I'm very happy about the decision. I'm very happy that you judge my Super Tuscan a very interesting one, because it is a wine to me very important.
Well, one thing I'm always hearing is that the terroir is so diverse throughout Chianti Classico. Where a lot of producers were planting Cabernet and international varietals back in the 70s and such, and blending them into Chianti through the 80s and the 90s, whereas you came to the scene and started planting a new vineyard with Cabernet and Merlot in the modern day. Was this a decision that you were able to base on terroir? Did you have the ability to look at a site and say that this would be the perfect location for Merlot, this would be the perfect location for Cabernet in this region to create Geremia?
Yes, let's say it was the decision was from one side taken by experience working in the beginning in my mother wineries, and another side I can say it was by feeling. And then, of course, the decision where to plant was something that's been studied with looking about the kind of soil, the altitude. So to try to think they could be fit better for Merlot and for Cabernet. This it is the beauty of Chianti Classico. It is a rainbow of a lot of different kind of flavors and taste. I think if you drink only Chianti Classico, you'll never get bored.
So with the blend of the Geremia, are there ever vintages where you decide to change the blend? Is it always 70-30? Did you ever get inspired to maybe push the Merlot higher, the Cabernet?
Yeah. No, the blend, it was, at the beginning actually it was even more 60 and 40. And now recently it is more 70 and 30. It's changing. Depend, of course, the quality depend. Also what the grapes, the vineyard released. Their vineyard, they start to be older, and of course they produce a little less. I like a lot Cabernet Sauvignon, I should say. And when I'm going around the vineyard, I should tell you sometime I want to remove all the Sangiovese and to because Cabernet Sauvignon, it is a grapes that it gives less problem in the fields compared other grape varieties. So this is the reason why even recently I planted more Cabernet, because I want to plant more Cabernet in the Geremia, and also for a future project. But still a little, they have to hide a little.
So going back to your production of different wines, something that you have a huge passion for, and that is the Vinsanto.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Vinsanto? Because this is a category of wine that I know Tuscan producers have a lot of passion about. A lot of Americans are confused about. They're little, it's dessert wine is hard in this country right now. But meanwhile, in my opinion, people are really missing out if they're not tasting Vinsanto. But could you tell us a little bit about what goes behind making this wine?
Yeah, sure. It is a wine that I really love to produce. I love to drink, and it is a wine. There are two categories of wine actually. Difficult to find quality, I think. Rosé, or rosato in Italian, and dessert wine. So not generally Vinsanto, but because both wine for different reasons not easy to find high quality. Speaking about dessert wine, generally speaking, the reason is there is a lot of work behind for few hundred or few thousand bottles. So not many producers want to invest money, energy for small production, and but in a way that for me it is very important to show the quality, the potential, the terroir of Monte Chianti. I want to show that potential also through the Vinsanto. So we invest a lot of time and a lot of research, a lot of even new method to try to keep the tradition as it is, but to change what it was wrong in the tradition to produce Vinsanto.
Well, it certainly sounds, as I've heard in the past, that producers of Vinsanto make it for love, not for money. It certainly sounds like that is a very proper coined phrase. Well, thank you. There you have it. Rocca di Montegrossi, an under-the-radar producer, which you need to get on your radar, as they are producers of some of the best Chianti Classico, one of the best Gran Selezione that will go into your cellar and age 10, 20 years, maybe more.
Yeah.
The Geremia, which in my opinion is one of the best values in Super Tuscans right now in Tuscany. And then of course the Vinsanto, which I'm very eager to try now.
Yeah.
Marco, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you to everybody.